just to continue my comments, there's a couple more things that I wanted to add, but it relates to the world of sacred naming, because this gentleman that I was addressing tangentially in my previous video used the name Yahweh, I think, to refer to God. And many Christians do this. They've started to use Yahweh to refer to God, or Yahuwah, and then they refer to Jesus as Yeshua or Yeshua or Yahusha. There's a couple of variations of that name, and I think there is, the literary support for those words, for those pronunciations. I don't think anybody knows quite exactly the pronunciation, the correct one, and this is one of the problems with it. But nonetheless, it does seem that those names correspond. The elimination in the Bible of the tetragrammaton, for example, is something that people frown about, and they say, well, this is involvement of the Catholic Church or this, that, and the other. But you see, none of those people understand the concept that the Bible is not just an idea, it is a real thing, and it is called the Authorized Version. That is today, and it has been for 400 years. That is our Bible. And our Bible does not contain the name Yeshua or Yahuwah. And God has strengthened it and protected it over all these years without change. So God is happy with the words that appear. The King James Bible contains the name Jehovah repeated 3 times. Therefore, we understand that Jehovah is a suitable and fitting word if we wish to describe Jehovah as the Father, perhaps. We don't need the sacred naming, you see. The sacred name of God, and I'm afraid a lot of Christians don't seem to understand this. The sacred name of God is Jesus Christ. That's the spiritual name. That's the power name. Jesus Christ. We're not getting involved. It's not a question of linguistics, you see, brothers and sisters. It's a question of spirit. And if you don't think that Jesus Christ is the name above all names and the sacred name, try using it in place of your Yeshua or your God. Try replacing God with Jesus Christ in your conversations, and you'll notice that they're beginning to bite a little harder, and you'll get a bit more rejection too. Jesus Christ is the name of God. Do not be deceived, brothers and sisters. So sacred naming is something that to me shows somebody who doesn't fully, focusing on extra biblical books, using sacred naming, and then towards the end of the talk, this gentleman proclaimed himself to be righteous, that he had chosen to take the righteous path despite his checkered past, and that he was now on a path of righteousness. He didn't even have the good grace, of course, to blush, because being a black man, you can't really tell. I hope if one of my own brothers and sisters would to stand on stage and say such a thing, they would have the good grace at least to blush. Really. Again, you haven't read the Bible, brother, and he hasn't read the New Testament. I think there is none righteous, no, not one. I think that comes in the Old Testament, actually. I think you might be able to find it in Isaiah. I'd have to check that, but it's certainly in the New Testament. The idea that there is no good thing in any of us to stand on stage and proclaim oneself to be righteous. Really. Well, there's no accounting, is there? And this is so after this tremendous slur against our people, against my people, which I was just bristled at, and it took a while to respond. This is a gentleman who would have walked home after the 2-hour talk, probably with a tidy sum of money in his pocket. I believe the speakers take the whole door. And the place was packed. I mean, he's a popular speaker and he's quite good. There would have been, perhaps 200 people, I don't know. 200 people there. I don't know. What can you say? I don't like to fall out with my brothers and sisters. I mean, he's entitled to have his gig, isn't he? And go talking and all the rest of it. But I just object to, to having to submit to a racial slur in silence. No. My people is not a genetic aberration, I'm afraid to say. We are the children of God. I think a careful biblical examination would yield very different results to the results that he is claiming. But again, these are things that I just don't care to get into. They're not relevant to any kind of discussion, because I'm not going to stand a fraction ahead of any of my brothers and sisters on the basis of their race. Just not going to do it, And I count myself a racist, actually, because I recognize my race. I find myself drawn to other members of my race. I like racial identity. I think racial identity is a good thing. I think it's about time we had a bit of white pride. I'm very much in favour of our people being strengthened and lifted up. I mean, we need to. Can you not see, people, this terrible state of our young people with so little pride and so little to live for, always beaten down and told that they're no good, and having to listen to people to impudence like this? I mean, this is absolute impudence. Oh, can you imagine if the situation were reversed, going into the black community and saying that they were a genetic aberration? I mean, well, I suppose the history books will tell you that this was what was done for a while, but I think a lot of those stories, are exaggerated. I'm sorry to say, Again, who is it that writes the narrative? Because we had to be painted as being absolute, brutes, didn't we? But I mean, it's not that many generations ago, and I know that my grandfathers and my great-grandfather were known for being very kindly men. These are not men who would have treated somebody, as a genetic aberration because they had different colour skin. I mean, for heaven's sake. This is a Christian nation also. Remember this. We all know the Bible. We knew it a lot better back in the olden days. So to say that it was us that was treating, certain races, because then again you need to look at the history of slavery and see how much deception has snuck into the pages of that particular little folk tale. I'm sorry to say, these things are quite complicated, you see. They really are. But I support all races. I just don't like this kind of sitting down and being, criticised. It's such a brutal way, really, without any kind of response. I mean, really, how dare you? How dare you say such a thing? I mean, if you can think what you want to, but to come and stand before us all and to tell us that we're a genetic aberration, honestly. You're very cheeky, man, especially when you're being paid by the very people that you're insulting, sir. Oh, dear me.